What's up, YouTube? Bobbles and Ball Cards back on a Sunday night. We're gonna do something a little bit different tonight. I got John. I'm gonna add him in. There he is.
What's up?
And we got Josh. What's up, guys?
What's up,
What's going on?
We got Rick and CW in, Mumbles is in, CBC. So, I told you guys we wanted to do some group stuff. I think this would be pretty fun to get different members from the community, the Facebook group, everything else, just to talk it up. And instead of y'all just listening to me ramble all the time, I'll let you guys talk. How about that? Get to know everybody a little bit better. So, go ahead and I'll let you guys start out by telling a little bit about yourselves and what y'all do in the hobby.
Josh, you want to go first? You want me to go?
Go ahead, John.
All right. So, my username usually on videos, guys, is Stepback Sports Cards. I've been collecting cards for, 25 years. Kind of like everybody else, started off as a kid, mostly collected baseball in the late 80s, early 90s. Took a break, got back into it when I was probably about 25.
Like all of us.
Hammered it hard. And like really went nuts around like Bryce Harper, the Strasburg craze, just chasing cards and doing whatever, like just a total madman.
Yeah.
And then my first two kids were born, and kind of, I don't know, maybe a year or two after that, I went into retirement again. And 4 kids later, I needed some sanity, so I came back. And now I'm just doing solely basketball. I feel it. My original thought when I decided I'm just going to do basketball was it's smaller numbers, less kind of paying attention to Joe Schmo AA prospect that throws 96 and has a sick changeup. Paying $7,000 for his card. Like I can't handle that. So I thought basketball was going to be the thing, and then all of a sudden basketball went nuts, and so now I'm just kind of on a freeze.
Yeah, that early 2000, like I remember when LeBron came in, basketball was just, it got crazy, and now it's just off the hook.
Nuts.
So, what about you, Josh?
So I've been collecting for probably about 30 years, different facets. So sort of my staple, going way back in the day, like prior to March 15th of this year, I sort of my funding aspect of the hobby was always to find NFL rookies. I always call them cards without teeth, right? So my staple card was always 89 score Barry Sanders.
Oh yeah.
I could buy it for $20, and if it wasn't a grader, I could sell it for $20. If it got a 9, it would be $60 to $75. If it got a 10, it'd be $350. So just finding sort of cards that I always knew had potential to make money and not hurt you, to fund the stuff I wanted to keep. And so my PC is more NFL Hall of Fame rookies. I think with the card boom, we've all kind of wandered into different avenues to try to find some ways to expand in the hobby, because that Sanders card I used to get for $20 raw is like $50 raw now. So it found some teeth. Now it bites if it doesn't grade. So
yeah, we just picked our first one up. I bought an 89 set, and the guy told me everything was there, but unfortunately everything was there but the berry. So we got one of those now. But so I talked with you guys a little bit before we got on here, and y'all discussed some topics. One of them I thought was really good. Was what got you guys into grading versus just collecting normal raw cards?
Sure. So for me, I'm gonna turn 40 this year, and times have changed since when I was a kid, and was mowing people's lawns to buy packs or go to the card shop, and you know I think, Bobbles, when we were kids, man, like Dave Justice was a rookie, and like I remember, like I begged and begged to get a Dave Justice Leaf rookie card, and I finally
You
got one.
played right at Richmond.
Yeah, and like it was like the greatest thing ever. But so when I got back into it this time, like one of my best friends has been collecting for just as long as we all have, but he does like rare Jordan stuff. Like he's in a different world. But he's always great in PSA, this, that, and the other thing. So I started doing some research on it, and I thought I was going to go with PSA. You got to buy that initial $250 membership, and then you get, I think you get 7 to 10 free vouchers or something.
It was
like
15.
that.
15.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I was like, I started doing the math in my head, and I'm by no means a math guy. But I was doing the math, and I'm like, I'm going to be into it for 15. I got to get it at this, but, So I started looking around. I had bought a few SGC cards of KG, and I was like, you know what? I don't really know much about SGC, so let me check them out. And started looking at their website and realized, I was going to use Beckett, and then I was looking at their prices, and I was like, I'll be able to do like one card a month here. This was even going back, February, when I thought the prices were still pretty high at Beckett.
Right.
So when I saw SGC only charging $10 a card, and I was like, oh, here we go. They're speaking my language. So I rolled the dice, and I sent in one card. It came back 9.5. You guys saw it on the site. But I think for me, the big appeal is you get an actual value of what you're buying.
Yeah.
Whether it's a 5 or a 10, you're getting a 5 or a 10. There's no like the card shows up at your house and it looks like a lawnmower ran it over. So.
I think, honestly, before the shutdown with PSA and BGS, I think one reason SGC had trouble breaking into the modern market is because they're known to be, I don't know if you want to say strict or tough or accurate with their grades, whereas I think a lot of PSA's popularity is, even with, BGS, they're more tough on the centering. Mm-hmm. And PSA allows that 60-40. And right. I think that's kind of why they gained the steam they did in the market, because people felt they had a better shot at a 10 with PSA. And, it's been spoken of many times where, as a collector, when you buy a card, you want the 10 on it. Well, with BGS, it's damn near impossible to get a 10.
Right.
So, and then people knew SGC was kind of more strict. And they, so then PSA got that push because they opened up, that 60-40 range. And so it allowed for, it looked like more 10s were hitting the market. And as you mentioned, the price with BGS, PSA was cheaper than BGS. Mm-hmm. Because, just like you said, with SGC being $10, well, and that's what kind of attracted you to it. A lot of people could say, well, why didn't you use GMA? They're $3.50 or $4 or whatever.
Right.
But at the same time, SGC has that reputation because, it's like everybody has said, if they're good enough to grade a 1910 T206,
right,
then how can they
handle a prism.
Yep. I mean, they can handle a modern card. If they can get a T206 right, I think they can.
My other thing too is I know, like, with all the guys that watch, and we've had these debates, like, I want to be clear that I'm not, SGC and that's it. Like, if I see a PSA card that I want to buy, I'm buying it. If it's
Oh,
a
yeah.
guy I collect, if it like there's like so going back to the last, and I'll let Josh talk because I'm stealing his thunder. I apologize, but like I don't care if it's a 10 or if it's an 8. If it's a guy I collect and it's a card I don't have and it's a card I want at some ridiculous price, like I messaged you earlier about with that Ray Allen rookie card,
Yep.
I'm gonna buy it. So it doesn't matter to me. It could be. I've put in an offer on like an FSG. You ever hear of them? Some grading.
No.
There's a Garnett autograph card out there, and it's this FSG. I don't even know. It probably stands for some guy's name. But it's like one card I don't have, and I've thrown like 3 offers at the guy, and he's being ridiculous. So I'm like, yeah, whatever. Like, I'll just wait. But anyway, that's why I grade. At least I know what I'm getting and what I'm selling. And with eBay being return city right now, there's really no kind of question of what you're getting. So
Right.
So that's the other kind of caveat to it. So I'll stop talking.
What about you, Josh, man? What got you into grading versus just the regular raw card?
Not all that dissimilar. It's again that the Barry Sanders is a really good example because you could turn $30 after grading into $350, and then on the other side of that, if it wasn't a grader, you got your $20 back. So it was with the cards I was looking for and trying to grade, it was ultimate reward with zero risk, right? Because I'm buying stuff of guys that people all want, right? By the time the stuff I have at SGC right now comes back, I'll probably have, I went ham on Peyton Manning from November till probably February. I'll have probably 100 of him slabbed up. I was sort of in the same boat with SGC, wasn't sending them anything. And then one of my good examples is I used to spend some money on prospecting, probably not as much as I am right now because of what's available out there. But looking at like the Baker Mayfield situation heading into 2019 season where his stuff was at a premium, he was coming off a solid rookie campaign. You send some cards into PSA just to sit there and wait while you watch the bottom fall out of them. So
Yep.
you're literally watching these things have the life sucked out of them, and there's nothing you can do about it. You know what you spent. You add in the grading fee. By the time these things find their way back to you, they weigh a lot less than they did when they went in. So I was looking for a mechanism as far as the flip game was to get stuff back. And it's not that dissimilar. You look at a guy like Lamar Jackson or even some of the real high stuff with Patrick Mahomes. If something goes catastrophically wrong with these guys, they're not Hall of Famers yet. They're not Barry Sanders. They're not Peyton Manning. My play with all of those guys is to get it. If it's slabbable, slab it and then move it. Because I don't want to be left holding that amount of money on something that's worth less than it was when I gave it to somebody to give me their opinion on it. So
Right.
that's how I found my way to SGC, and that's why I'll, at least for the foreseeable future, stay there.
Well, I can tell you guys, like John said, I actually took the dip and spent the $250 on PSA. I used my free vouchers, and what killed me with them was when I sent that 8-day card in. I sent that Tatis in on an 8-day submission, and I was hoping, within 10, 15-day total turnaround or whatever, and it took a month. And when I paid over $100 for one card to be graded, and they give me no reason except for telling me they were still researching it, which, it's not like it was some card they had never seen before. I mean, it was, it was a simple 2019 Topps Chrome. Yeah, it was the red wave to 5, but they did other players in a red wave. It wasn't like, again, a 1910 T206 where they had to make sure it was authentic. But they never compensated me in any way when the woman was like, well, we don't force you to send your cards on a faster submission at a higher price, we'll just upcharge you. And then I asked the question, okay, so what's the difference? You know, if I send it at 45 day and then you tell me I still have to pay for the 8 day, then why don't I just do it the correct way and send it the 8 day to begin with, and you do your job and get it back to me? You know, because either way I'm going to be paying the $100 or whatever it was. So, you know, I've showed you guys all some stuff that we have, but I have like boxes of stuff back here that's in Card Savers that I want to send in, and I can't send 500 to 1,000 cards at a time. You know, that's a lot of money at one chunk. So that's why, as y'all have seen, I try to do 100, you know, like 110, 120 at a time. Keeps me right at a range that's comfortable. And I was figuring up if I did 100 cards at a time, which a lot of people are talking about PSA's price jump right now. They don't realize January, I don't remember whose video it was I watched, but they said, you know, why wasn't this done back in January or something when they were slammed in? They did raise the price in January. There's been 2 price ranges in the past 6 months with them, and they were shut down for what, 2 of those 6. But I figured up one time, and it was like for 1,000 cards at 6 months time frame on a turnaround, sending at 100 cards at a time, which would be just over $1,000 a submission. It would have took me 5 years to get them all done. And at that point I was like, there's no way I can do this. You know, I can't. In 5 years these cards might not, like, you know, Josh was saying, who knows what happens with these players. You know, now I can wait a month, 2 months, whatever, especially if you do it like, you know, set your seasons up. You know, like right now obviously everything's in the off season. But if you prepare your seasons, it's a different ball game. But 6 months is just crazy. You can't do that. So I actually stumbled on SGC watching Elite Co 3. And I got into grading because I was selling things raw. And we pulled a Luca Silver from 2018. And I was looking at prices of raw versus graded price. And at that point, I was like, I've been screwing up. You know, I can't sell this raw if I can potentially sell it for 2 to 3 times more. So that's kind of what pushed me into the grading thing. Just realizing raw value versus graded value, and the return on a little extra investment on the card. So, but yeah, and I'm one just like y'all have mentioned. I got PSA 9s, 8s, everything right back there on that shelf in these boxes below my feet. I'm not, you know, I like the SGC slab. I like the black border, but I'm not opposed. If I can get a card I want to add to my collection at a good price, you know, I'm not gonna pick and choose. I'm not OCD or whatever you want to call it on what my collection is. Now there are some that I would like to cross over just in the SGC slab, but I'll buy a PSA 8 or whatever. If it fits my budget, I'm gonna buy it.
Right.
So
That's
I like
the thing, man. Like,
you got. I like the excuse you got on. I like the excuse you got on your 8-day Tatis. That sounds like the adult version of what I told my dad when he asked me why I didn't mow the lawn.
Yeah.
Still researching it.
That's literally what the woman told me. She's, because you know how they have the, like, what is it, 5 or 6 different categories there?
Yeah.
And the first one was it's research and review or something like that. Whatever the beginning one was. It sat there for 2 weeks in that. But yet because I sent that card and the 15 vouchers, I sent them all together. Because you can do that and then you mark the outside of the package what the quickest turnaround is. Well, my 15 vouchers were already being graded, and my 8-day was still sitting in review. And I was like, I called and asked, and that's what she told me. Well, we're still having to look into it. So, I don't know.
Adult
I think
version of a kid's answer.
I think, at the end of the day, I mean, people are going to do in grade or whatever, however they, whatever company they want. Like I said, I've actually left some of the Facebook groups I was in because of like, it's just, some of them are just so tunnel visioned into PSA and nothing else. And it's like, you can't even ask a question. So it's like, you know what, I'm too old for that. And, I don't, there's certainly one way, more than one way to skin a cat. So it's like, what does it matter if you're going with an SGC or you're going with a PSA or you're going with a BGS, or, you know what I mean? Like, they're all,
It's the same thing inside the plastic.
and I will say, I think SGC's label change, as simple of a change as it was, I think it's been something that is gonna, for me, it made a huge difference. I like the all black look all the way.
Yeah, I do.
Around the case, and I like that the actual number is pretty large, so there's no kind of guesswork in it.
Right. I mean, we all by now in the cards should know what the number is. You know
Right.
what it represents. However, a lot of people apparently don't, because they still choose to think that a BGS 10 is the same as a PSA 10 or a SGC 10.
Right.
So then you get all of the ones, well, BGS is the most expensive value out there or whatever. No, it's not.
Right.
If you get the mysterious unicorn grade, yeah, sure. I mean, if you pull the unicorn, you're great, but
Finding Bigfoot.
yeah. So,
It's an interesting avenue. So it's the same thing like where we've had conversation. I'm trying to spark this room up to, get people working on deals, post stuff for sale, throw up a want list. We all get comfortable. And a lot of people become fans of one way, right? Like we see it with Chevy or Ford or GM or Nike or Reebok or Adidas.
or Puma.
Puma. Right. But I'm wearing Nike shorts. I don't want you to think I'm holding
All right, you get a pass then.
I'm not under contract with Puma anymore. But you lock yourself into certain things when you're only one way. If you're only PSA, then you're locked into those returns. And if you're only SGC, obviously we're seeing the gaps close in value, but you can still make good moves and make good money with PSA stuff. So if you're not open to explore every avenue that's available to you, you're not hurting anybody but yourself. So
Right.
the one size fits all, and I definitely fanboy a little bit for SGC because they fit my model. I don't
Right, and that's my thing. Like I stopped using Reddit a lot, which Connor knows. That's where Connor found me. Uncle Mumbles, me and him started talking on Reddit, and I used to post on there a lot. Like that was my platform for talking to people about the hobby, or I sold things on there. And then when I started doing SGC, I started giving advice from experience, just like I've done on YouTube. And then I get called a shill because you're a fanboy, or I don't know how many times I've been said that I work for them. That's how bad it's gotten. The fact is, I'm not against using PSA. I'm not against using BGS. But we also know that a lot of people that are into the hobby now are new. And they don't know about grading. A lot of people have came to this channel or to the Facebook group, or Mumbles, he had never graded before, got with me, and I talked to him and helped him through how to grade. you know, so to give to read, rather, people say, well, only use BGS or PSA. You're telling someone that has no information and no knowledge that they have two options,
Right.
both of which are more expensive, both of which are going to take usually longer. BGS sometimes from that turnaround time thing, it looks like they're slammed as well. I've heard that PSA, the only things they're meeting right now are like 10-day or less or something like that. And then, I get SGC's backed up, and we're used to that 20-day turnaround being less than 20-day. And so I get all that. I get people jumping in with them and thinking, well, we've heard so much great stuff, and they're not seeing the same results as those that, even such as myself, that have shared the information. So I get the frustration. But even if they're at a 45 business day or whatever, they're still exceeding the other companies. The prices are exceeding BGS and they're comparable to PSA. But you're waiting less and you're paying less. So that's why I try to inform people who are asking questions, especially when I read people saying only PSA BGS, because there is another third option now. It's not to say don't use PSA, don't use BGS. It's just like, I know Alico says it. Certain cards look better in, a PSA slab or even a BGS slab. I kind of like the Bowman Chromes in the BGS slab. That's when we started our collection. That's why I got, so many BGSs. I like those having the auto grade on them. So every company has their place in there. GMA probably has a place in the market, really. I mean, at $3.50 or $4 a card, you could probably flip some $2 to $3 raw cards and turn them into $10 or so. So they might even have a place in the hobby. But it's just like you said, the ones that have the blinders on, those are the ones that bother me. And like I try to tell everybody, it's your choice. I'm just trying to share information and experience, just to help people.
Well, think about it like this too. Like if the card industry was just one way, there would be a base set and nothing else. There'd be no inserts. There'd be no parallels. There'd be no nothing. You would get a base set of Wade Bog, and that's the card.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So like, there's 8,000 different ways you can collect. Why shouldn't there be more than 2 options, 3 options? I'm hoping even this CGC, the comic book company, they've teased a couple videos of they're going to get into the card grading game, and I'm all for it. Why not?
Yeah.
There should be 10 legit companies that do.
There's actually 2 in Canada, but people just they're not recognized. There's 2 companies in Canada, and I think one is actually, they grade so similar to BGS. I'm wondering if BGS isn't a partner with them. Like the slabs are even the same, and they have subgrades. But that's KSA and M&T. They're Canadian companies, but really you only see cards from hockey in them, and that's because that market is huge up there, and that's easier on them as far as shipping and cost and all that sort of thing. But they don't gain value or hold a lot of value there. There's no problem. I mean, just like you said with one set, what if we only had 1 or 2 cars to choose from? How many different car manufacturers are out there? And they all have a place on the road. You could drive a Ford, you a Chevy, and I drive a Dodge. It doesn't make any one of us right or wrong. It's what we like.
Remember when Hyundai came out?
I owned one. They didn't even come with a radio. That was a special option.
For me, it's got to have a radio. I don't care what it is. But so like when PSA came out earlier this week, and I said it before and I'll say it again. I fanboy for SGC because they fit my model. So PSA coming out earlier this week. I might have caught a little guff like your buddies do when they say something silly or whatever. But the fact that they're actually finally trying to scale that company is big for us. Because to be honest with you, at the end of the day, I don't send cards to PSA because I like them, and I don't send cards to SGC because I like them. I send them cards because it helps me gain more value out of them. And in normal times, even if I'm catching a little bit less loot for SGC cards, I can roll that cycle relatively quickly. And for some understanding on how my model works, right? So I move through a lot of cards, and not everything I send in is some crazy monster. In fact, most of them, I like to specialize in lower end cards that you can create a lot more value in. But I had, I think, 138 arrive at SGC on the 11th of June. I'm waiting on 100 more from April. My next sub's up to 50. So I'm moving through a lot of stuff. I'm selling a lot of stuff. And I don't need to try to catch the top of the market to still make money if I can repeat that cycle 4 times to 1.
That's what I was showing in that video I did, 2 months ago, showing actual return on investment between the two companies. Because really, the other thing, like you were saying, even aside from the turnaround time, figure up your grading fees.
Absolutely.
Figure up your fees between one company and the other, and then take the difference. Even if PSA is selling for more than an SGC, take your difference in price and what the deduction for the fees would be, because you're going to pay more fees on a higher sale, and then also factor in the target or the turnaround time, and it almost evens out. I mean, you're probably better, more on the return side than you are selling it for more. But they have the blinders to what did eBay say. That's why when I show it, I always show the deductions, the fees, and everything else.
So even at the end of the day, so however you want to look at it, let's say under normal circumstances, we're looking at 6 months, which if they scale, whatever. But right now we're looking at 6 months for PSA. So if we're going to sell, pick a card, a PSA 10 Zion Prism, whatever, 550, and let's say the SGC only catches 500. I can take that $500, buy, up to 50 more cards, add another 500 to it, and turn that into thousands of dollars. In the same time, you're going to try to debate me that you got $50 extra by waiting for 6 more months.
Exactly.
You're not going to win that battle with me. I don't care who you are. If that's your model, run it and be happy with it. But don't tell me that that's beneficial long term, because the more times you can work through that cycle, and then you turn that $500 into more cards to grade, and you get more profit out of it, or even if you're turning the raws over that you bought that didn't make the grade to send in, you're still turning your money over multiple times with SGC compared to one revolution with PSA. And to me, it's a no-brainer.
Now, speaking of something on that, okay, because here's something that I've been noticing a little bit, because obviously I'm majority selling graded cards on eBay, and I've posted some things raw. Have you guys, like, when you're selling and you're mainly putting up graded cards, have you noticed, or in your personal preference, if you go to someone's eBay store and you see that they sell a lot of graded cards and then there's a few raw cards sprinkled in there, will you buy from them?
Yes.
Oh,
so
yeah.
there's different scenarios. So I bought 2. This is going back a little ways, but he listed them at near min. I bought 2 Barry Sanders 89 scores from Elite Co. KC Futures. And to me, I paid $40 for the 2, and this is a little bit ahead of the explosion. And they both certainly, in my opinion, I think they're going to 9, and I was going to make that $40 on them. to me, the realistic nature is that when you're buying a card on eBay, if your expectation is that it's going to come to you in gem mint condition, you're probably wrong.
Right.
But there are occasions where you do get some that are worth the squeeze, especially in modern, especially when PSA was closed and BGS was closed, and all of those guys that frequent those companies didn't have an outlet for them. I think the last 3 months I've probably gotten more gradable cards off eBay than I have in any other realistic time frame. But if I'm buying something from them, I'm buying it with the understanding that it's probably not going to be a grader.
What about you, John? Do you notice any difficulty in selling, or do you buy?
So I generally, like, when I get back into this earlier this year, AD, Anthony Davis rookie cards were pretty cheap. Not the Prism, but like his, marquee, and I bought his Hoops BGS 9.5. I think I paid $40. I was buying a lot of his cards, and they were cheap. Under anything under $50 to me is cheap, and there's room to grow. Obviously, there's room to lose $50, but most of the time I look at it like, all right, Anthony Davis, there's room in this card. I didn't expect to sell him a month and a half later for almost triple,
right?
But I did. But my rule, and I want to say it was either Central Valley Cards. We've talked about this a couple times. Like I hope and pray when I buy a raw card on eBay or on Facebook, it's going to be an 8.5. Like I live at an 8.5, and if it's anything better than an 8.5, good for me. I don't have a problem buying raw. I don't, unless, like, one thing I have noticed recently, I've bought a few like mid-90s like Ray Allen stuff, and in the pictures the cards were money. Maybe a little centering issue, and when they showed up, they were not in good shape at all. So people can definitely alter their photo. Luckily I returned both, and the people refunded me, but that happened out of hundreds of eBay purchases. I've returned cards this year more than in 15 years on eBay, just from stuff just being like seriously damaged. Like if a corner's nicked or whatever, I'm like, whatever.
I think that's also because there's more interest in the older stuff, so people are digging through their shoe boxes.
Yep.
Well, I think a lot of it comes down to why you're buying the card. What I mean? So my PC, I might have 5 graded cards total in my PC, because if I'm keeping it, I don't really care.
Right.
If it's in a slab or not. That's sort of the fund the rest of it mechanism for me. So,
but like I guess what I was really curious, and I seen this as in a topic earlier. I don't remember if it was another Facebook group or on Reddit, because I do get on there and read what people are saying. I just don't post much anymore because, anyway, I'm not going to keep getting accused of things. But there was a question. I guess somebody was wanting to buy a card raw, but they seen that the seller sold mainly graded cards. So I was wondering if you guys have had any or noticed any trouble if you had cards that you tried putting raw. And the reason I ask this is, I have, like, the LeBrons. Y'all seen how many of those I've sent in. I listed one raw on eBay because I graded 10. And then I had another one sitting back that, behind that flag is actually a walk-in closet, so it's more storage. But I had one sitting back on the desk I have back there, and there was nothing wrong with it. But I was like, okay, I've already sent 10 of these, and we all know when you start stacking inventory, like Keston Hira, I still have probably 30 more to send in. But unless that card just starts catching fire and you can move them, you're going to be sitting on that inventory, and then it's dead money there, because the more you have, the longer it's going to take to sell. So I was like, I'm just going to throw this one up raw. It sat there for probably over a month, because I guess everybody, they looked and they're like, oh, this guy grades, there's something wrong with this card. But there wasn't. You know, there was absolutely nothing wrong. It was just I had already subbed 10 of them, and I found one that I missed that I didn't send in, and I think it actually hurts and makes it hard to sell raw if your main focus is graded. Unless you're like, like Alico, people know that if he's putting something on there, he doesn't think it's gradable, and you're going to get, what you expect. But like somebody like myself, where all my recent sales really are graded cards, they probably figured this card's damaged, we just can't see it.
Yeah, in my store, I know I don't have any graded cards right now to sell. I've sold them all. Everything that I have getting graded right now is down in Florida. But I've sold a ton of raw, and to be honest with you, I would say out of the last 150 sales I've had, I'd say 125 have been raw cards. I don't. To me, like going back to what you're saying about the inventory thing, like I'm going back and forth with one of my buddies right now of, do I grade my Tatums or do I just sell them raw? Because
you sell them to me raw.
Listen, I paid like $5 to $10 for most of these cards a few months ago, and they're like, the Optic Shock is going raw, like $79.99 or best offer right now, and I'm like, what's going on here? So it's like, do I want to grade those? I sold a PSA 10 Optic Shock a couple weeks ago for like $220. I paid $79 for it in February. Right. Like it's unheard of what's going on right now across the board.
So, what did I tell you before we got on? Kawhi Leonard Optic Hollow, 80. It's between $60 and $80 right now. I've seen one or two went for $80, and I had three or four. And I think I let them go for $15 or $20, I don't know, 2 months ago or so. And then I get on there and look, and I'm like, when the hell did this card hit $80? And I know I still have at least one. But it's like that sort of thing, and that's kind of my reason for the question, because I have stacks, of Prism. I have stacks of Topps Update. Guys that, like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, his Prism bases are moving. I could send a few into grade, and I can move some raw. But I'm worried that it's going to be hard to move the raw when people are seeing how much graded I'm selling, thinking, these aren't any good.
So one of the things that I would suggest you do, it's something that I've tried to do for probably the last year as someone who does sell quite a bit of graded, is if I see something wrong with the card, I put it in the description. Mm-hmm. So if it's got a soft corner or if there's a scratch on the surface, I just list that. So for one, the expectation set that it is not a grader. And there's people for every level of card, right? Like not everyone in the world is going to be hunting down
graded. They want the deal.
Yeah, they're not going to be looking for Prism Zions graded at 560. They'll take the one that you can visibly see is off center for less than 200 and be happy to have it.
Right.
So
it's just like buying an 8. You want the card. You don't need the pristine. You just want the card, and that's how I look at it. It's always buy the card, not the grade type of deal. Yeah. Just like that Gretzky I've shown. That's a 4.5. I don't know how it's a 4.5. The card is beautiful. I mean, the corners are obviously soft, and but to set it back there on that shelf and know I have a Gretzky rookie.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just in a piece of plastic that says 4.5, but I have a Gretzky rookie. It's in a fancy one touch.
And I don't know if he's on here because I'm not on Facebook right now to see it, but that's why I love to watch Guns videos.
I don't think he's on right now.
So when you watch his videos, it doesn't matter if it comes back like a 2 or a 27. Mm-hmm. He bought it because he loves the card. Like he has a genuine enjoyment in the things that he's looking for and that he purchases and that he buys for his collection. It's awesome to me. Like I love watching him get cards.
You can ask Mrs. Bobbles. I talk to guns all the time. Yeah, me and him chat like well, we've been chatting all day pretty much. Unfortunately, he's on West Coast. I think John, you're on the West Coast as well.
I'm not. I'm in the East Coast.
Uh, there was I could have swore you were on the West. There's somebody on the West Coast else that talks. Because I'm not gonna lie, my phone will start going off at night after I lay down, and I'm like, I gotta ignore it because I gotta get up early. But I try to get to everybody, but like when I'm working and stuff, sometimes it's hard. And she'll reply to people sometimes too. But yeah, guns, and that honestly, that's kind of also why I enjoyed like watching Elite Code. You know, he doesn't. He shows his returns. He shows like previews. He'll show sales. But it's the fact that when he gets them back, he'll be like, you know, oh, I expected this to be an 8. Or he'll get like a 9.5 and he'll be like, oh, I had this at 8.5 or a 9. You know, he's real with it, and he's not just, oh, screw this, I gotta, have the best or whatever. And I kind of like his platform, and I know his eBay store is big and it's been around for a while, but I like how when he looks at a card, if he thinks it definitely deserved that 10 or whatever, and he'll mark it with his little CBF in his listing, and he'll price it higher because it's a card that he doesn't care if it sells. He's going to price it high enough that if somebody really wants it, they can pay for it. But if they don't want to buy it, he's more than happy to keep it in his collection. And that shows the side of, he's using sports cards to drive a business model, but he's also has that collector passion behind it as well. Because, he's been doing this for years. That's why he's got all these Drew Brees, SPs and everything else, and why he's got, it seems like he owns every Acuna bat down that's in existence, because every return he's got 2, 3, 4 bat downs. It's not that he is always like one step ahead in the game and picking these guys up that he for dirt cheap, instead of waiting until so-and-so's getting inducted into the Hall of Fame or so-and-so's retiring, let's grab them now. He's like already prepped ahead. It kind of like you were talking about, Josh, with Manning,
Yep.
And I like that part because, yes, we all want to sell cards. We want to make money from them. But at the end of the day, we're collectors. And you have to love that part of it before the flipping or the investing or any of that, because you have to know and have that appreciation for what the hobby is, for who the players are, what cards are worth the money, the players that are worth the money, before you can get into that investment side of it. Otherwise, it's all a gamble. It's just pure gamble. And that's why I've gotten back into getting the guys like you guys were talking about, when we were chatting, buying the proven instead of the prospect.
Yep.
That to me is like the constant struggle, because so when I was collecting baseball 10 years ago or whatever, I was big time prospecting, and my buddy was buying the Jeters, he was buying Ricky Hendersons. He was doing the guys that are either were Hall of Fame bound or, well on their way to being in the Hall, where I'm buying like a Max Stassi, whatever, blue refractor for the A's catcher or whatever, for $50. And he's like, what are you doing? But I'm like, nah, this guy could be huge. And it's now like I've learned a little bit of both, and I do more of the guys that I want to collect, the sure things, so to speak. I'm a big KG guy. I'd say 70% of my collection is KG stuff. I love that guy. He's nuts.
KG was my fallback when Shaq went to LA.
You know, like, so like I anytime there's something KG, like, I'm interested. I don't care. I have like 65 of his rookie cards. Like, you know, like you guys are saying, you get stuff and that's who I collect. That's who I want. You know, we've talked, Bobbles, quite a bit about Brandon Clark. I like his game. I'm just some guy sitting in my basement talking on a video chat right now. I don't know.
Right.
You know, I love Jason Tatum. I'm a big Celtics fan. Jason Tatum could blow out his knee next week, and guess what? There goes Jason Tatum.
You want to know, bringing up Tatum, though, and you guys can confirm this. I don't know. Do you do a lot in basketball, Josh? I know you had Optic today, but
I just started getting back into basketball, so not a ton, but it's been more about what I could get my hands on. I guess as far as a flip game goes, you're always kind of looking for something that broadens your horizons. Like when we were talking about hockey, I don't know anything about hockey, so
okay.
About basketball, we're getting back to it. So
the funny thing is, okay, and you mentioned Tatum, and you mentioned Clark. 2017, Tatum's rookie year. Mm-hmm. Him and Donovan Mitchell, they were the big boys. Yep. They were what everybody wanted. Everybody was buying, you know, into breaks and stuff like that. But there was still retail on the shelf. There was still reasonably priced hobby product. And then you had Luka and Trey. Along with, they weren't even the top two picks because you had Ayton and Bagley was number 2. Yep. So they weren't even the top two picks, and you had Luka and Trey, and basketball was still available. When we really started buying a lot of basketball, it was September 2019. This past year, and at Blowout, we were buying cello boxes for $125 of 2018 Prism.
Ooh-wee.
Yeah, just, you know, what is that? 9 months ago, we could buy 2018 Donruss Optic. Those were $89 boxes.
Right.
Now look at it.
Oh yeah.
But my point was to this, Tatum was the hot guy, you know, him and Mitchell. They were the two rookies everybody wanted in 2017. But the price wasn't up here in 2017. You know, they held a premium over the other rookies, but it wasn't astronomical. And then now he's starting to rise up a little bit. So what in the hell are people doing with these 2019 rookies? You know, it doesn't make any sense because you got to let them go up. Yeah, if you're paying this price now, where is the opportunity for a future increase?
But that's been a forever problem, I guess, in my eyes. So you get the upside for talent, and people start to see things, especially high draft picks. Look at Robert Griffin. You know, when he was in Washington, lit the world on fire, had a catastrophic injury.
Hell of a player for 1 year.
I think everybody, at least back as far as I can remember, most of the collectors thought Ryan Leaf was going to be a great pro, had all the arm strength in the world, turned into who he turned into.
Jamarcus Russell.
But yeah, history in sports is just riddled. Greg Oden. Remember you posted a card of him that you got in that 50-cent box.
Darko Milicic.
Don't bring him up. Anybody but him. Yeah, as a Pistons fan, I still throw up about that one. But it's
as a guy who held the number 2 Topps Finest redemption card. Do you remember those?
Yeah.
This guy had number 2, and I didn't know what to do because I'm sure y'all remember this. They were saying Carmelo might be drafted by the Cavs because he won the championship with Syracuse.
Yep.
There was speculation. So here I am sitting with the number 2, and I'm like, okay, if Melo goes to the Cavs, LeBron would be number 2.
You're
So I
getting
gotta
one of
hold
them.
this.
You're getting one of them for sure.
Right, you're getting LeBron or Carmelo. And here out of nowhere comes this guy, Darko Milicic, who did nothing.
I remember watching that draft being like, who the hell is this guy?
Yeah, and that was the XRC.
I'm sorry, what's a dart bowl?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that hurt.
Yep.
And if you go back into that 2017 class, I mean, there's
Wade,
Lonzo Ball
Bosh, LeBron,
still
Anthony.
has a chance to
Mhm.
be really good. De'Aaron Fox, who I think ultimately will ask out of Sacramento, is a hell of a point guard. So and his stuff is still pretty reasonable. Donovan Mitchell, he's got a little bit of the Utah Jazz bug. Great fan base and whatnot, but Utah guys kind of don't get some of that market exposure that some of these other guys get, and it can hurt their value a little bit, But I just think that the prices that you're seeing on like Zion and Ja Morant, it's crazy. Like I scratch my head. I'm like, I would rather take that money and buy 10 Michael Jordan rookie cards than drop $500,000 on a Zion card. Like, what are we doing? But
So
it's not my money, so whatever.
Yep.
Here's part of what I think ends up happening. And I certainly, Ja's sort of my prospect guy. I got a lot of his stuff. But when you start seeing some of these Trout cards go for massive money, or the LeBron that's up at what, like 960,000 with about 20 days to go now.
But that's
For sure, different ends. But even if you look at like the Trout update at $3,000, so people start to look at. I think it's down a little bit, but the PSA 10 was up around 3,000 for the Trout update rookie. Look at the Acuna bat down. People start to look at some of these upsides of guys that are proven and established a little bit, or well on their way to the Hall of Fame, and they think, well, what if I get them now? Right, I want to be ahead of it. So
Right.
a lot of these young guys end up flying off the shelves because people want to put them away forever and make them in. And I don't think it works out as much as it doesn't.
Right.
I mean, but you got to have room for growth. So look at
That's
like
part of it.
LeBron.
But that's part of new collectors too. Part of the boom coming is the thought of growth doesn't exist with everybody.
It's the investment, and they all think that they're going to be able to flip them, but
Yeah.
they don't realize. One thing that kind of is laughable to me is we refer to like the late 80s, the 90s, and the early 2000s, into that range as the junk wax era, right?
Yep.
But here's the thing: in those times, especially the late 80s and the 90s, you didn't have that many sets. And you damn sure didn't have 80 some, I don't even know what Prism and Optic and all that is up to now, parallels of the
44,
base
Jared.
card.
44.
And now you have the Asia editions and the T-malls and this, that, and the other. So, I was watching the breakers that I know last night, and he gets a lot of Prism product, and he does Prism mixtures. He was still breaking 2015 Prism, and had large quantities of it. So these products are not limited.
Not
They're
at all.
stashed. They're stashed in closets and boxes, and they're not limited products. And if you really look at how many, you got Select and Optic and Prism, and you could go on and on and on and on, and it makes it look like they're limited products because we can't find them. But in theory,
Find them in the wild.
right?
Did you pull up in one of your videos? It was you or somebody else pulled up eBay listing for maybe Mosaic cellos,
Oh yeah,
and there was hundreds and hundreds of them. It's a cool product. I like it, and I'm buying some of the cheaper stuff to try to grade it. But
right.
it's short supply, not at all. It's everywhere. It's on Marketplace on Facebook. You could go on eBay right now and buy 10,000 cello packs of Mosaic. if you could afford it.
But it's rare. It's rare.
Certainly, I compared to some things, maybe.
And you want to know how Panini's getting away with it? Do you know how they get away with it?
No.
No.
Have you ever seen odds on a Panini box or pack?
No.
Well, so that's the interesting thing about.
There's no odds.
That's the interesting thing about the optic I've been finding in the wild lately. Like that's not a new release, and all of a sudden more of it's showing up. So I was having a conversation about how do we know that they're not just printing more? Like, where is it coming from? Did they just throw some? It just seems weird that it'd be in a warehouse because it wasn't like cards weren't selling during the pandemic.
The checkerboard that you pulled?
Yeah.
Those were supposed to allegedly be limited because they say ultra rare.
Sure.
Those are supposed to, I think 2018 they said the run was 25 or something like that. So when I pulled the jaw, because we pulled the jaw checkerboard, I thought, holy crap, this is probably a $1,500 card, right? They kept popping up on eBay. And I'm like, okay, we're already past 20 that's been listed. So I don't know what the run actually is on those checkers, but whatever it is, they're ultra rare. They're so ultra rare that out of the little bit of quantity that we bought of Optic, we pulled 13 checkerboards. So I guess ultra rare is under 1,000 on a print run or something like that with them, because they don't ever release print runs. They don't put odds on anything, and you could just figure out what did you say, John, earlier? 44 different parallels or something like that.
Yeah, I think there's 44 different parallels this year.
Okay, and out of how many of those are numbered?
That I don't know. Maybe I don't know. I'll guess and say maybe 5 or 6 of them. I don't know.
It's way more than that, because the choice, the Asia choice,
Yeah.
those all have numberings in them, because that's the thing. The U.S. version will have the black, which is 101.
Yeah.
But then Asia will have the nebula, which is a 101. So then they all get their own kind of rainbow inside the rainbow.
Right.
And then you have probably 10 to 12 different parallels of the U.S. version. And now they're throwing out...
It's endless chase.
But now they're throwing out on, like, was it... I can't remember if it was Select. Yeah, it was Select. They made Hybrid. Because, you got Fast Break. And now you have Hybrid, which kind of mixes the two. So it's just more and more and more. And then, you have these numbered cards, but there's so many parallels that God knows how much they're printing. I mean, literally.
And that goes back to the original thing we started talking about with the grading. So one of the big kind of like attractions of grading, like early on, was you get, this card like has a low pop, and you could ask for more money, or the card would be worth more money because it's a pop 10 or it's a pop 1 or whatever. And I was having this discussion the other day, and one of the guys I watch on YouTube, the Personal Finance Dad, he talks a lot about cards and whatnot, and he was talking about Luca and his base prism between the 10s and the 9s. There's currently a 15,000 count pop between the 10s and 9s, with I'm sure there's thousands more sitting in warehouses, getting ready to get graded, and those people.
Oh, you can find raw ones on eBay.
So
like 16,000 for Zion between the big three graders.
Yeah. So now it's like, all right. So it was like kind of like a reality moment for me where I was like, I guess pop reports don't matter anymore because the demand is still there. Those cards are still selling at a premium. So it's like, I guess it doesn't matter. I've never seen a listing that says pop 11,000. You know what I mean?
The pop reports are a little more misleading right now than probably I think they would have been in the past just because of the card boom and things that would have traditionally not been sent in.
Right.
So like you saw the Griffey Bowman blow up. And it might seem far-fetched, but the Griffey Bowman has a much higher percentage of 10 than the Donruss or the Upper Deck, based on actual.
And it's a larger card.
And it's a larger card, so I think it was almost double. I think I looked at it, and I think it was up around 11%. And Donruss and Upper Deck are both in the 5 and change percent of submissions that grade out a 10. So there's obviously things that skew that. Certain people obviously help the 10s percentage because they're very meticulous. They go over, they know what they're looking for. And then certain people don't care as much and they heard it, but it's fairly accurate. So like we were talking a little bit about the Manning artist proof that I put up. So I have, throughout the beginning of the year, I did a deal with a guy where I bought 35 of those in 2 different swoops. So I bought like 18 and then 17. And they were significantly cheaper than they are now when I bought them. But of the first batch, I think I sent 7 in, and I got 4 10s and 3 9.5s, and there's another 7 down there now from the second batch. So you can certainly understand that it skews in one way or another, but you have to also understand what the frequency is, because up until recently, it didn't make a ton of sense to send in a whole bunch of Peyton Manning Topps cards or top season opener cards. Well, now you're seeing the growth in those, and you see what a big premium the 10s draw. So that stuff's flying. Kobe Bryant Topps in November was $10.
Yep.
How many of those do you think there are in PSA's 1.5 million card backlog?
Well, there's 9,000 I think there's 9,000 graded of those.
Of the top?
I think that's the pop. I was actually looking at it yesterday because I have one when I was buying up Kobe's. I kept missing out. I kept getting outbid on the base tops. So I started looking at the NBA 50, the 50th anniversary, the foil one. And people were like overlooking it. But if you look at the pop report, okay, here it is. For the base Kobe, there is 9,152 total graded. The NBA 50th, there's 589.
Yes. So the Peyton Manning top stuff's a great example of that too. So if you look at the Topps Chrome, last time I looked at it, there was like 1,100 of them graded in a 10. The base tops, there was, I want to say like 340 something graded in a 10. And then the top season opener, there was like 103. Topps, the one in the middle actually had the highest 10 rating out of the cards sent in. So that was the most likely of the 3 to get a 10. And then the Chrome, which is the highest end, was second, and the lowest population. I don't know if you guys remember season opener. It's the gray border stuff.
Yeah.
That they put out straight retail product. But
it has like NFL draft or something like that up on the side of it. Yeah.
Yeah, it looks pretty much. They're all the same picture. They all have the same picture on the card. But again, to the point of Kobe Bryant, we're right now on his base tops. There's 9,000 in the 50th. There's 500. Again, what's your honest guess when a card was worth $10 in November that's now going for sometimes over $200 on eBay? PSA's got 9,000 of them now. What do you suppose that pop count looks like in a year for graded examples?
Probably at least another third of its current.
I would guess bare minimum.
Now, interestingly enough, there's 2,022 10s of it. Out of the NBA 50th, there's only 64 10s.
That's got some foil on it, right?
Yeah, everybody thinks it's the Chrome.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think what shies people away from it, or what people don't realize, is those NBA 50ths, that came from a set. So it's almost like the Topps Tiffany of basketball. But I started, like, I kept seeing them pop up, so I did some research into it. I looked at the pop report, and I was like, you know what? I keep losing out on the base. I'm going to buy one of these because it's 15 times as rare. I mean, eventually people will catch on to it.
Well, and the reprints for the Topps Chrome that they sell look a lot like that card because it uses the same picture. Like the Chrome, you can actually kind of see Chrome's lines in the jersey, in his shorts. You can visibly tell which one's a reprint and which one isn't. But that reprint one, because of the foily Chrome look of it, looks a lot like the 50th.
That's why I bought mine graded. Stuff like that, I'll go ahead, and that's why I buy a lot of 8s and 9s just to have the card, but I'll buy it graded on something like that, especially if I know it's known to be reprinted.
Yep.
So I know it's real. It's not necessarily what condition it's in, it's knowing it's real. That's more important to me. And I bought that in an odd grade, the mysterious 8.5, because they don't do a 9.5. So I snagged it. There's 13 8.5s out of the 589 total graded. So I was like, hey, I'll take it. There's 236 8s, 13 8.5s, and 232 9s. So I'm falling right in between the probably 90% of the population on that NBA 50th. So
When there's a certain point too, long term, you know, if you ever decide you want to come off your collection, at a certain point with certain guys, an 8.5 of a card like that is always going to probably climb the mountain in the right direction as far as value goes over time. Right? You're not going to pop report that card to death. You know what I mean? Where I think the base Topps Kobe, because of how Topps made product in the 90s, I think the 10s long term are a bad hold. I just don't think the market can sustain that price when there's probably 20,000 of them waiting to be graded, or 10,000 of them waiting to be graded out of 1,000,005 cards, because it's gone up 10x in 8 months.
yeah, I mean, it would be interesting to see, but you know, I still like buying guys like him, even if there are 15,000 of them out there, just because he had a career. You know,
For sure. And I posted one of them from my show pickups from this weekend. I went to 2 shows. There's a Kobe in there.
right?
Not Kobe, because I feel like part of that model with SGC is even if my thoughts are that PSA is going to blow up the pop report. For one, I have multiple of that card, so I pick it up when I can get it at the right price. But again, if I'm right, I can cycle it multiple times before all these cards work through PSA, and the market has plenty of them. And if I'm wrong, I got a graded Topps Kobe Bryant rookie that holds its value.
Well, and a lot of people have picked up to the white border cards, how they look in the SGC slab. So I think it'll do really well.
Yep.
But all right, guys. I've been watching over here in the comments a little bit. They've all been having a little chit chat over here. Shuey said tins will always hold a premium. He was counting you on that, Josh.
Sure. I still think they'll hold the same premium they do right now, because the pop report, I think, is going to grow substantially.
I seen Card Currency earlier said that Lonzo Ball is a top 5 point guard in the NBA. I don't know if I agree with that. When you have Steph, Westbrook, there's a lot of good point guards in the NBA. Now I will say Lonzo can throw a good deep ball when Zion's cherry picked down the court. I'll give the man that. He could play quarterback. But
I think Lonzo is really underrated, big time. I really do.
I don't think he's a top 5 point guard right now, though.
I don't know if I'd go that high.
He's got game. He has a game, but top 5, nah.
I think obviously his old LeVar Ball there hurt him for a little while.
Right. Well, and then his brother's coming up, and everybody's like, "Oh, his brother's better."
Yep.
So, but that could be good for him though. Going to the Pelicans, having Zion as the face there, maybe taking him out of the spotlight, taking the pressure off of him.
Yep.
Maybe is good for him. Maybe, because I do know before the shutdown he was working on his shot and everything.
His shots changed. He's good. He's a former top 2-3 pick in the draft. I mean, the guy's got talent. He can play. He played big time college ball. And he's dominated. So hopefully at some point, adding a guy like Zion to you, that just makes your job as a point guard that much easier when you have a guy that can go get the ball. It's just like a quarterback in the NFL. You got that big wideout that can go get the ball. You can, your room for your.
You mean Kyler Murray?
Nah, no. When
he's got weapons.
He's got That, by the way, that trade was. I can't believe that trade happened.
I think Kyler could have some numbers.
He could,
especially if
he plays in the hardest division in football now. That division's loaded. Loaded. He's got to go against that San Francisco defense and that Seattle defense twice. They're going to kill him.
Nah. If he... Yeah, I think Kyler... I think he's too much of a talent.
Listen,
he's too athletic.
All it takes is one missed blocking assignment, and all that talent goes bye-bye.
Yeah, I think he's got a chance to be great. But all right, guys. I hope y'all had fun doing this. I've been talking about this for a while. Just getting on, shooting the shit like we did.
This was a blast.
Yeah, I mean, now that I know how it works, I was trying to do Zoom and that just didn't work out. Zoom was the way I had to do my streaming stuff. It messed everything up. But we can definitely start doing this. Rotate around people coming in, get to know everybody, and then that way, when we are, when I'm just sitting here talking and y'all are chatting or whatever, you kind of got some background on each other and share stories or your thoughts on the hobby or opinions. That's one thing. We all know, me and my wife, we know sometimes discussions get passionate or heated. As long as nobody's being rude or nasty or whatever with each other, we understand everybody's got their own opinion of things. And we welcome that because, we're not saying we're right. Everybody has their choice. Man. Exactly. I mean,
you get to tell people everything about them's kind of junky, and it's just okay.
Yeah.
I'm in Michigan, and so I have the Ohio State fans and the Michigan State fans that are also very good friends of mine, and we just like to talk trash to each other. Obviously,
that's part of it.
Yeah, the Ohio State fans are winning this century, but it's still fun. Still talk trash.
Exactly. That's the whole point of sports and having fun. Rivalries. I mean, I'm a Ravens fan. I'm gonna tell you right now, I love when they play the Steelers. I love it. Absolutely love it. Especially when Suggs and Lewis was there and that defense. Oh, yeah. And I don't know how many people know, but Suggs has sacked Ben Roethlisberger more than any. I think they said more than any player has ever sacked one quarterback in their career. Suggs has sacked Roethlisberger more than that, or something like that. Just because it's that rivalry and that passion. I mean, I don't know if y'all played high school sports, but you even had a rival in high school, and that game was just the next level. You laid it all out for that one game because you wanted that spirit stick, or like the county I grew up in, we actually had a trophy, and we were the Eagles, they were the Falcons, and it was called the Bird Bowl. So we actually had a trophy that the winner got to keep for the year. So it was a huge deal. And that's what it's all about, man. I mean, just like your Puma, I might like Nike, you know? We can all have opinions, you know? So, and that's what's great about it. As long as we know that neither one of us has to be right, neither one of us has to be wrong, and we can just discuss it.
Yeah,
That makes it great.
have fun with
So,
that.
Yep, absolutely.
So I'm gonna give my opinion to the guys in the room listening. Guys, it's turning into a great platform. Throw your wish lists up. Sell some cards. Let's
yeah,
take advantage
and
of a good, safe place where we don't have to pay crazy fees, and you can get to know everybody and build a network within your own contacts to move cards and buy cards. And
John,
Yes.
can you step in on that? Because I know you're one of the moderators that helps go through the spammers list.
Yep.
Can you let everybody know that when we approve somebody to be in the group, maybe just a real quick rundown of
Yeah.
how that process works, so people know that we are making sure everybody in there is legit, safe, they can do deals with them, that they've been checked out.
Yeah, so what we do is we run everybody through a couple of or the biggest scammers group page on Facebook, and just make sure there's been nothing that's popped up with their name as far as any kind of shadiness going on. We added a question recently to have everybody include their username on YouTube. Just because there's, I like to interact with people on the chat. So it for me, I've approved a lot of the people. And it just helps me when I see the name from YouTube. I'm like, oh yeah, all right, I know, So, but that's also doesn't mean that that's because you're okay on YouTube doesn't mean you've ripped 5 people off.
Right.
So, we vet, and I think Bobbles has said it. I know I'm in agreement on this. Josh, you probably everybody that sells cards knows that eBay, it costs a lot of money. It cost, and if you start selling a lot of cards, you've got a $200 to $300-$400 bill every single month from fees. So if we can get a place where we can sell our cards and not have to pay taxes and not have to pay fees and all kinds of craziness, we're gonna have the 3% PayPal no matter what. But I'm all for it. That's my big thing. So sell your cards, list them, like Josh said, get that want list out there. Post your cards. Don't be afraid to start posting cards for sale, raw or graded
Absolutely.
or what. Post them.
Bobbles brought it up before. I think it's important to protect yourself in the goods and services avenue of PayPal is great, especially when you're doing first-time deals, second-time deals, however long it takes to get comfortable. Well, there'll come a point where if you're networking and you got people out there looking for the stuff they know you want, and you're looking for the stuff they want, it becomes friends and family.
Yep.
You can get away from those fees if you're comfortable.
Right.
I don't recommend starting off on that foot, but you can certainly get there by doing enough deals with people in taxes are gone.
Or even simply,
You get to keep all your money.
Yep.
say, I'll probably butcher his name, but the guy that bought the KPJ off of you, he'll get that in, and just a post up said, "Hey, thanks for got the card in today."
Absolutely.
That then gives you reputation within the group, and then people can get more comfortable, and that's all we have to do is just, and maybe I can set a rep page up or like a section in there to where when there's transactions made, like I know Shuey bought a pretty big ass card from Natsman. It was that clear Jordan, and he shouted him out, thanks for a good deal and everything. And that's all we have to do. I mean, I'm sure all of you that watch the channel or are in the group by now know I ain't got no reason to mess it. I was tore up when I messed up on Shuey, which Shuey actually bought a couple more cards from me today. and I got an explanation of what happened there. Because when I tried to send his label today, I caught it. Stamps.com, for some reason, auto-corrected his address. I don't know why it happened, but it changed his address when I went to print the label, and I sent him a picture of it. And but even in that instance, say that woman hadn't have sent him the cards, I would have gave him his money back, because that would have been, on me for not catching it before I printed the label.
Right.
And, mistakes happen, guys.
Sure.
The post office can mess up, or, fat fingering an address could happen. But as long as we're on the understanding, and it's a great platform, it's another tool for us, and it's, what are we, probably at around 100 people on there now, but we got 520 something on YouTube. So that means there's 400 that hasn't joined us over there. But if we can keep growing, that's just more opportunity for all of us. And I just wanted, I knew John was helping with the spammer page. That way everybody could see and feel safe using it. Because I know we are still a new group. Even the YouTube channel is new. I mean, I've only been doing this for 3 months now. So I get, some hesitation, but I wanted everyone to know everybody, before they're accepted into the group, they're checked. And I'm going to tell you too, there is no 1, 2, 3 strike, you're out policy. If you screw somebody over, you're out the group.
Right.
We are not going to play. Mistakes happen, and if you fix your mistake, that's one thing. But to just straight up, screw somebody over, and we know it's intentional, you're out. So
yeah, so that's one of the things I wanted to tell people too. Like, so I'm on Facebook for cards, so I don't even use my real name. Jmichelin's my real name. I use my initials and then a cutoff last name, because I don't want my friends and family to find me and have to talk to them about stuff I don't care about, like politics and nonsense.
Well, y'all know when we started the YouTube, we didn't have Facebook.
Yeah,
we didn't use it. We simply made it for everybody to be able to have a platform. When I'm not on here chatting, and we had the live chat here, a place for everybody to go to talk. That was the whole reason that we made it. We don't even use it for personal.
Yeah, I don't either. And I guess I'm saying that because there's avenues that if you're not comfortable with people either, like I can link you my eBay store. You can go in and see that I've done a lot of transactions with perfect feedback. You can show people the same thing. If you're on the up and up, you're on the up and up, and
right.
You can build a network where if you think about it in perspective of every card you sell, you don't have to give somebody else 13% of that. That's a lot to hedge over the course of a year or a lifetime, especially if you're moving cards.
And it helps.
It's a lot of money.
Well, it not only helps the seller.
Yeah.
It not only helps the seller, but it helps the buyer. It's just like when I sold Mr. Jordan, that LeBron, for $115. Okay, people are probably thinking, holy crap, what is he doing here? He's selling his stuff too cheap, because they seen I sold one on eBay for $140. The difference is, once you figure out the fees, yes, I gave him a hell of a deal, but on my end, I only lost $6.
Right.
I'm for my subscribers and you guys and everything, I can take a $6 loss. But when I have to sell for $140 to even get close to that, that's when it makes it tough. And then, the buyer not only pays the $140, but they're paying the taxes.
Yep.
They're paying the shipping costs. So you're actually saving even more than that 13%.
It's good for everybody.
Yeah, you're probably saving roughly 19 to 20% of what you would pay on a market value of eBay. I normally try to cut that when I put a card on Facebook. So if you're buying from me on Facebook versus eBay, you're probably going to be saving anywhere between 15 and 20%. And that's a lot. I mean,
it's a ton. It's a ton. You know what I mean? Like, it's a ton. I go back and forth with guys on offer. I'll make an offer on the card, and I know, the Rhode Island tax rate is 7%. So
add that to your 13.
When you add that in, and I'm trying to like this card should be $50 out of pocket for this card, and it's like I shouldn't have to get into a explanation with a seller about, hey, blah blah blah, taxes, this and that. Nope. All right, so I'm going to take 13 to 15% off the card on Facebook, and it's $35 instead of $50. Here you go.
Exactly.
Everybody wins.
Right. You're not saving, or you're not paying the middleman or eBay or whatever, and they're not having to pay the bump up.
Right.
So that
that's the other part of a community too, like you mentioned, is you don't get to come in here and run amok and treat people terribly. Like, if you're on the up and up, you have a platform and a place to go. If you're gonna come in and approach it in a different way, you'll be gone. And on eBay, I'm here to tell you, you can make a career dirtbagging people, because everyone that sells with any frequency on eBay has been dirtbagged and conned out of money and had to give up not only a card but the cash, because eBay's never going to get your back, and they're just going to let suspect to be a turd.
Never, ever, 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 ever sell shoes on eBay. Never. My daughter had a pair of Doc Martens that were brand new. She's 14. She wanted to sell them to get her some money to buy some clothes, whatever, So I threw them up on there. This woman buys them, has them for 2.5 months, left positive feedback, filed a claim to return them. And then in her messages said she bought them to wear to a party. But they hurt her feet. So she sent them back, and eBay allowed her to do it.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
Never sell shoes on there.
And for perspective, as a seller on eBay, you're the highway to them making money. Because if you're not on there selling, no one can buy anything. And they're not charging the buyers anything out of pocket, the tax for sure, but that doesn't go to them. Every dime they make comes from sellers selling stuff.
Right. Yep. And they certainly don't protect them.
No.
Certainly.
But all right, guys, it's 10 o'clock, so I gotta get my butt ready for bed. That way I can get to work in the morning. But this was a blast, guys. We can definitely do this every week or whatever, however people want to do it. Again, join the group. We can communicate all of this on there. Yep. Set up dates, do schedules, see, put who wants to do it this day or whatever. These guys can attest it's really simple to do. All I got to do is send you a link. You click the link, it lets you right in. Very simple, very fun. Get to know everybody. But thank you guys. Thank you, John. Thank you, Josh.
Thank you.
And
thank you.
Thank you for all of you guys watching. Again, my wife says hey, I enjoyed it too. I can pick y'all's brains a little bit, and I don't mind if people pick mine either. So, sometimes I sit here trying to think of things to tell everybody that they're going to be interested in, and this makes it a lot easier because instead of reading this, we can actually have a conversation. Yep. But my wife says I don't say it enough, guys. So please like and share the channel, subscribe, all that good mess. If you guys have channels, you can shout them out. I know you got accounts, but
I don't.
Okay, all right. Well, that's another thing. If people are in here, they can do that. But please go over and join the group. Yeah. But anyway, guys, stay safe, stay healthy, and until the next video, I'm out.
See you guys.